Hello, hello. Hope everyone is doing well. I'm Patti Mason, also known as Pepperspray Patti. I am a independent women's self-defense instructor, empowering women and teens to confidently defend yourself in any situation, regardless of your age, your size, or your physical abilities. I'm a firm believer that not only does everybody have the right to defend themselves, but you also have the ability. Now, I did a video yesterday because this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I was talking about what you can do if you want to help somebody that's in an abusive relationship, or if someone comes to you asking for help. Well, today I want to debunk one of the myths, we'll say, about self-defense. But before I get into that, I have some super duper exciting news. I'm pretty sure that I am not the only one who has an Amazon Prime addiction. I'm sure many of you also do, and so therefore you know that today and tomorrow is Amazon Prime's Prime Days, which basically just means 2 days of ridiculous deals and all that kind of great stuff to encourage us to shop, right? Well, this makes it a perfect time for you to jump on Amazon and grab yourself a copy of Prepare, Protect, Practice, Action Steps for Women's Self-Defense. I will put the link in the description for this video so that you can click on and get it, and it is on special. Normally it's $19.95 on Amazon. Today and tomorrow it'll be $11.95. Love this book. Doesn't give you everything, but between this book, taking my classes, watching my videos, following me on Facebook and YouTube, you'll definitely pretty much have almost just about everything. But let's jump in. As I said, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Why is that important to me? Well, because I am a survivor of domestic violence, and that is how this all got started. And so today I want to talk about a myth and kind of debunk it. And it's a really, really important one. What I want to talk about is why someone stays in an abusive relationship. So the myth is, because I don't think people realize that this is a myth, but the myth is that it's easy to leave an abuser. I was one of those people who believed that it was easy to leave an abuser. And my attitude for most of my life was arms folded. If anyone ever hit me, I would leave. I would never stay in an abusive relationship. I just don't understand why women will stay with someone who is abusive to them, especially physically abusive. If someone is beating you, leave. Like, duh. Well, listen, until you're actually in an abusive relationship, no offense, but you don't get it. And I know that I can say that because I was a firm believer that, like, hello, just pick up your shit and leave. It's that easy. Well, sure. And like I said yesterday in the video, I want you to stop what you're doing right now. Grab whatever is, within reach of you that you can take and carry, and I want you to leave. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? So, my abuser attacked me at night. It was about 10, it was between 10, I know it was like after 10 o'clock, but not quite too late, because Monday Night Football, I'm pretty sure, saved my life. I laugh, but I'm serious, because I was able to get out of the house, and I ran looking for a house with lights on. And it was about a block and a half, almost 2 blocks, and I found a house. And it was because they were watching Monday Night Football that the lights were on, and they were in the living room. And I banged on the door, and I said, please call 911. My husband just attacked me. Now, I told you about the police coming and them telling me that he's gonna go to jail overnight. He'll see the judge in the morning. He'll likely get bonded out, but there's a 72-hour restraining order. And I laughed because that didn't matter. I knew exactly where he was going to go as soon as he got out, and it was that house. And so that night, I made a plan that the next morning, the officer said that the earliest he would see the judge is 8 a.m. And so my plan was to be out of the house by 7 o'clock. I thought I'd go to bed, get up in the morning, pack a bag, and I would leave. Well, first of all, I didn't sleep a wink that night. I literally sat there in bed, staring at the window, waiting for him. Even though I knew that I was safe at that moment and that it was extremely unlikely that he would be there in the middle of the night, because the odds of him getting out of jail in the middle of the night slim to none. But even knowing that, I was so afraid. I was so scared that I couldn't close my eyes. And so the next morning I got up and I packed a bag and I got in my car and I drove. And it wasn't until after I got into the car and started driving, and you're still feeling the emotions, but now I had a new set of emotions because I'm actually in the car and it's, okay, where are you going? So I pulled into a McDonald's parking lot and I called our church and asked to speak to the pastor. And I told him what happened. And I told him that I had packed a bag and I left because he was going to be getting out, that he would be bonded after 8 a.m. And so I said, he's probably at the house. And so I left, but I don't know where to go. And regardless of what you believe religiously, or what beliefs you have of church, they're human beings and they're not trained for everything. And so he didn't know how to help me. And so I got a response of, okay, well, after things settle, if you guys want to come in for counseling, I could see you. And I was like, no, I don't think you understand. Like, I have a bag packed and I'm in my car in a McDonald's parking lot in X town and I don't have anywhere to go. And he said, well, I don't know what to do to help you with that. I mean, I guess I could, I could see if there's like someone who has a room for you to stay. And he seemed very hesitant on it. And at that point, I realized that, oh shit, I'm in this alone. Completely alone. And so I thanked him for his time and got off the phone. And then I had to figure out what to do and where to go. And on top of it, then what? Okay, great. So I find somewhere to go for today. What happens? What happens then? At some point I'm going to need money. I just packed a bag. I just threw clothes in there. Um, it's complicated. It was at that point that reality, the big picture of reality hit me, and it's like, oh, now I get it. Now I get why it's hard, why it's so complicated to leave an abusive relationship, why people stay in relationships, because there's so many factors. What if I had kids? Now I know, over the last, several years with the work that I do, I know that most women who leave an abusive relationship and have kids will likely end up in a shelter. But the reality is, most shelters have waiting lists. And I told you yesterday, in my head, a shelter was like the bottom, like being homeless. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, but let's be honest, there's not a great, nobody's going, ooh, I want to go live at a shelter. It's not something that's looked upon as, good for you kind of a thing. That's that's hitting rock bottom. And that's when pride kicks in, and the humiliation. And so I did end up reaching out to some family that wasn't too far away. But, then I go and stay at a family member's house, and that was a very, they didn't have a great relationship, and was very volatile. And, they yelled at each other and called each other's names. And my relationship was nothing like that. We never yelled at each other. We never said mean things to each other. We never called each other names. There was no FUs and that kind of stuff. And so to go from my experience to that person's house, it was like, and I'm the one that got abused? The point that I'm trying to make is that in that moment, in that experience, the things that you think and all these, here's the biological facts, is that was trauma. And it messes with your ability to think. And so I ended up taking about a month, maybe a month and a half. Yeah, it was probably about a month and a half of bouncing from couch to couch, trying to get back to the place where my head was calm enough and clear enough that I could actually think, okay, what are you going to do? And so, you throw that in there. At the time I was working for the company that my ex owned. So my income was directly related to him. It was, our income. I was lucky that there was some cash in the house that I grabbed. But, especially when you're at the point where you're married, there's We're on the same cell phone plan together. Our bank accounts are intertwined. You know, my name was on the lease of the house that we were in. Like I said, that was, my money too. Um, there's so many things. I mean, think about just in general, relationships are complicated. So don't think that it's not complicated for somebody in, an abusive relationship. And then on top of it, there's that reality of, did this did this really happen? Did the person that I'm madly in love with, the person that I, made a lifelong commitment to in front of God, did this person really do that? Like, you question yourself. Well, that's a part of the predator's manipulation and psychology to get you to that point that you question it. And not only do they get you to the point that you question their actions, but they've also created a comfort net around you so that the people around you, so when you go and you reach out to people for help, they're like, no, what? No way, what? I would never have guessed that he would have done that, kind of a thing. And so, there's all these thoughts in your head, and then we came to the holidays. And that made it even harder, you know. And I thought, I made a commitment. I made a big commitment. I'm not just in a relationship or, in a serious relationship or in a living, like, we're married. And I thought, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe this was a fluke thing. Now, listen, I mean, most of you have been following me for a while. You hear me, you see my posts. I'm not stupid. I'm actually pretty well educated. And yet I thought this seemed so out of character for him that, well, maybe this was just a fluke thing. And so I did go back, and we were together for about 2 months, which was basically through the holidays. And then in January, things were different, obviously, in our relationship, and it just wasn't quite the same anymore. I wasn't the same. He wasn't the same. There no longer was trust. And now, because people will ask, well, did you see, was there signs? Was there something that, forewarned you of, what was going to happen? And now, with the knowledge that I have about abuse and predators and narcissists and manipulators, yes, I can see the signs. I can put it all together. But at the time, it was, a little thing here, a little thing here, a little, I hadn't connected the dots. It was just small little things. And, shit happens in a relationship. People are human. So, you kind of give someone the benefit of the doubt. And so I was kind of like, but it was different. And so, he was actually coming up on his court date for the incident that had happened, and he was being charged with domestic abuse and battery. And he was talking about it, and telling me that he was going to be taking a plea deal, and the plea deal would be the time that he had already served, which was overnight, 2 years probation, and anger management classes. And I thought, anger management classes, that's really strange. But I'm not going to get into that. I even wrote a letter to the judge and said, he's a great guy. He's, active in the community and volunteers in our church. And I don't know what happened, but I will tell you this, anger management is not what he needs. Whatever kind of therapy or punishment or whatever, anger management doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Well, so he took the plea deal and he started the anger management. And he came back from, I don't remember if it was the first session or the second session. And he came back from it, and I said, so how's this going? What's been going on? And he said, I don't know, it's stupid. He says, I go and, we talk about problems and that's it. And I go, well, like, what kind of problems do you talk about? And he says, well, problems that you have. I'm sorry, what? You talk about problems I have? What about talking about what happened? And he goes, what do you mean? Well, the reason that you're going to it is because of what happened. So have you guys ever talked about that? And he says, no, we just, talk about what problems you have or the problems that I have with you. That was my wake-up call. And it was at that moment that I realized that he said one more thing. And I use this in my class quite often. So if you've taken a class with me, you've probably heard me say this. And I said, well, aren't you supposed to be going to that to talk about what happened so that it never happens again? And his words, well, in regards to that, I did what I had to do to handle you. And the only reason I won't ever do it again is because I'm not going back to jail. That is a reality check. And that was when I knew that this is not a safe person to be with, because that's not someone who's remorseful, and someone who's not remorseful will probably do it again. And that's when I made a plan and got a job, making income. As a matter of fact, I sold Mary Kay. That was the job that I got. Because I could still work for his business, and I could do that on the side. And I saved up all my cash sales, and that's how I was able to, 2 months later, he left for the weekend, and while he was gone, I packed up my car, whatever that was, the most important things to take that could fit in my car, and I left and filed for divorce. Sometimes you may need a little bit of time to create a plan that makes you safe. The reality is, after I left, the next year and a half of my life was probably one of the worst year and a half of my life, because me leaving is what made him the most angry. And even though he didn't have the ability to physically hurt me, I lived in fear that he was going to do it, and he was not nice. Never threatened me, never threatened harm, but was very verbally abusive. That's when the name calling and the F-bombs and the harassment began, and then it became a never-ending game of pain and manipulation. And that's where I got to the point where I said, enough is enough. It was the abuse after leaving my abuser that drove me to self-defense. Because that was the reality, that unless I did something to protect and physically defend myself, that he likely would do it again. And knowing that he didn't want to go back to jail, who knows what it was going to be like. And at that point, you have to expect that that he will make the decision in his head that if he's going to go to jail, it's not going to be for some punches. And that was my eye-opening. That was the next, that was that big eye-opening. It was a lot of wake up and a lot of eye-opening in that period of time. But the myth is that it's easy to leave an abuser, and the reality is that it's not. It's never easy to end a relationship. Even just some of the just general relationships, are not easy. Nothing in life is easy. And so most certainly leaving an abuser, because an abuser is not going to be abusive to someone that they don't have some kind of power and control over. The faster and easier it is for them to have power and control over a person, the faster the abuse and manipulation escalates. So after, almost 2 years of knowing this person and being with them, like, he had my 100% trust. I really did question, and I gave him that second chance. And if that conversation had never happened, I don't know how much longer I would have been there. I may have been there for a little while longer. But one of the biggest reasons that I share my story is because we don't talk about it enough. Because this has always been, and I don't understand why, but this is something that somewhere it is a private matter. It is a family matter. This is, a mind your own business kind of a matter. And the reality is that it's 2020 and we're still treating it that way. We need to talk about abuse. We need to talk about domestic violence. We need to share these experiences and share these stories so that more people can understand how serious this is and how life-altering it is. We need to talk about the statistics, like, for example, that statistically as few as 1% of every domestic violence dispute are ever reported to police. 1%. That means just about 99%, just about all of the abuse that is happening is not even being reported. Everybody looks at the victim when, for example, a woman is attacked and abused by her husband. calls the police, or someone else calls the police, and the police arrive, and she's like, no, I tripped and fell, or she's got some kind of an excuse. Everybody looks at the victim and says, well, why are you covering for this person? Why are you allowing this person to do that? First of all, you got to put yourself in her shoes, because she's standing right there. Her kid's there. He's there. And she says to the police, yeah, he hit me. Do you know what's going to happen when the police leave? And you can say, yeah, but if she says that, the police will take him away. But again, they're only taking him away temporarily. He will get out. And he will go right back to her, and he will be pissed because he had to spend the night in jail because of her. Because the night my abuser was arrested, I was sitting in my living room on my couch looking up at this police officer giving a statement, and I know I've told this many times, but you fully have to understand this. He's 2 blocks down the street in a police car, in the back of a police car, texting me, you have no idea what you just did. Why do victims not come forward? For fear of their life. They do it to protect themselves. And here we are pointing fingers at them and saying, are you stupid? Why would you stay with someone who's abusing you? You know what? Since that experience, I've seen a lot of abuse. For example, in the workplace, of employers abusing employees, higher level management abusing lower level employees, and coworkers abusing. As a matter of fact, I actually left a job at one point because the business manager, who was also the franchisee's wife, was so verbally abusive to employees that she used the C word, ladies, that C-U-N-T. She called employees that. And employees stayed. Why? Because they needed that money. I need this job. I need this paycheck. Do you know what she just called you? Yeah, I know. But I gotta pay my bills. Everybody's got to make decisions in their life. And if you want to see a change in domestic violence, and that's what this month is about bringing awareness to domestic violence so that we can bring a stop to it. Because did you know that an average 24 people per minute are victims of rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner in the U.S.? Worldwide, 1 in 3 women will experience some form of violence from a partner. 1 in 3 women. It's 2020, guys. And I'm blown away by these statistics. But why is it? Because we have this attitude of, well, she should just leave the abuser then. Well, let's make it easy for her. Or him. Because there's another myth we can talk about. Is abuse doesn't just happen to women. Now, statistically, 85% of domestic violence victims are women and come from a male-female relationship. But that is not all. Anybody is potentially a victim for abuse. Domestic violence does not discriminate financially. So it doesn't matter what your income level is, you are still at risk for domestic violence. Lo Locally, so where you live, well, I live in a nice neighborhood. Well, it doesn't really matter what kind of neighborhood you live in. You could be the victim of domestic violence. Age. As a matter of fact, there is a serious incline in the statistics on teen dating. I believe that is because they're actually starting to look at it and talk about it, but I believe that is something that has always existed. It's just now they're actually collecting the data, and so that's why the statistics just keep going up and going up. And those numbers are absolutely ridiculous. Also, the talking yesterday about how to help somebody that's in an abusive relationship, and I said that the three things that you could do was: one, be kind, two, give them resources, and what was the third one? My mind just went completely blank. I don't remember what the third one was, but even if you're not trying to help someone who's in an abusive relationship or has been in an abusive relationship, we all need to check ourselves in our thoughts and our attitudes towards victims. And that is a big part of how we change these statistics and change this world and make it a safer place. Because of all the jobs and careers that I could have in my life, I love being Pepperspray Patti. But it would be a dream come true to not have to do this job, to not have to share my story, to not have to help other people believe that they don't deserve to be a victim and they don't have to be a victim. You guys, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your love and your messages and your comments. Please, if you found any of this information helpful, please consider hitting somewhere right around there a share button, and share this with your friends and family, because it may help somebody else also. Have an absolutely wonderful day and stay safe.